Ontario is implementing new measures to battle auto thefts. Now, this comes as police say organized crime targeting luxury vehicles has created an unprecedented jump in those thefts. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is on the story for us in Toronto, and she's joining us now live. Megan, what action is the province proposing?
Well, there was a news conference this morning announcing some new measures. That conference being held by the Transportation Minister, Prabmeet Sarkaria, as well as Michael Kersner, the Attorney General, and they're announcing some new mandatory penalties for some auto thefts. They're proposing to suspend people's licenses who are convicted of auto theft. It would be a 10-year suspension for a first offense, a 15-year suspension for a second offense, and a lifetime suspension for a third conviction. Now, these suspensions would only apply in cases of auto theft where violence was used, or threat of violence, where a weapon was used, or if the car was stolen in pursuit of financial gain. So they wouldn't apply to every single auto theft, only certain convictions. We heard at the news conference that Manitoba has a similar rule, but Sarkaria was saying Ontario would have the toughest rule among the provinces with this mandatory minimum 10-year suspension of the license. He also said in the coming days the government will be announcing more first in Canada changes. Now, he said tackling auto theft is a multifaceted effort involving multiple stakeholders and involving multiple levels of government, including the federal government. Here's more from the Transportation Minister.
Driving is a privilege, not a right. If you're shameful enough to prey on other members of the community for your own reckless gain, you'll lose that privilege. I know this isn't a silver bullet, and more changes working with the federal government to achieve meaningful reforms are needed. But the joke is on criminals if they think Ontario is going to stand by and not do our part.
So he says Ontario is doing what it can within its jurisdiction and its provincial laws. But we heard the minister call on the federal government to do more to tackle auto theft in terms of its jurisdiction, including calls for bail reform, as well as tougher penalties for convictions of auto theft, as well as stepping up inspections, the minister said, at the Port of Montreal and rail yards to try and get those cars back before they're shipped overseas. These were all topics that were discussed recently at that National Auto Theft Summit in Ottawa. Now, asked at that news conference, Natasha, how effective will these license suspensions really be in deterring auto theft? The minister said these changes will send a strong signal to Ontarians that the government is taking this problem seriously and that they want to use every tool in their toolbox to try and tackle this problem. He said at that news conference that a vehicle is stolen every 14 minutes in Ontario. The government will introduce legislation later this week containing these changes.
Okay, thanks so much, Megan.
You're welcome.